Okay, so hi everyone. I am going to show you guys how to do a basic baby boomer ombre. It's going to be obviously with the white and pink. I am using just a generic Kolinsky 16. I do not remember the brand. It looks like Petal brand, maybe. It's torn off, I don't know. And obviously just a standard tip. Now this nail I want to make in coffin shape, so I'm going to clip the tip of the stiletto off. Now it's up to you if you want to file that, if you get some jagged edges off of it, or you can just leave it like that until the end and you can finish shaping it with your regular file. Now typically what I'll do when I'm doing these on clients or myself is I'll lay a layer of clear down first, and that's with any encapsulation, glitter, ombre, anything like that. That way when I go in for a fill, I can just e-file off the product that's already on there and still have a clear base without having to soak off the entire nail and start a new set. So I go into my monomer. I make sure the brush is completely burped. That means all of the air and the air bubbles, and you'll see it when you push it down at the bottom of the container, are out of it. Now with ombres you have to work wet. But if you have a good brush, see the belly? This is the belly part of the brush right here. That holds all of the monomer. So be very careful if you have a brush that has a large belly. Be very careful that you're getting out the extra liquid, because you don't want it too wet. So my mix, I have white acrylic for like French white, and this is what my bead looks like. So I'll place it at the tip, and then what I'll do is I'll fade it out. And you see how wet it is? How it's just kind of going everywhere? But I start the fading first before I finish the end of the tip. But I just used a ratio of 3 parts clear to 1 part white. And I used the Mia Secret clear to mix this in just a basic French white with it. So I fade it up. You want to fade it pretty well. Now how far down you go depends on what you and your client agree upon. So a super thin layer to start it out. Some people, they only do 2 layers and then encapsulate. It really depends on the style, shape, design, if I encapsulate glitter with it. But I just fade it up like that, and y'all can see how thin the layer is, and see it's still wet. It's not even mattifying yet. So then I'll go in, make sure I clean the brush. Then I'll go in with my pink cover powder. A lot of people were asking why the nail bed color is too transparent. It's not opaque. Cover powders, those are opaque enough to do an ombre look when you're dealing with pink. I use Mia Secret. I use Cover Pink, Cover Beige, Cover Rose. Then I also use Young Nails. I'm obviously using Mia Secret in this demonstration because the price point, Young Nails, just really is expensive. You don't want to waste it on practicing unless you absolutely have to. So what I do is I go in and I get a pretty nice size bead. Ombres work well when you can get the first layer in as few beads as possible. So I'll lay that and I'll let it sit. 1, 2, 3, and you see it kind of going everywhere. Always pat your acrylic up the sides. Never draw it down. Then when you go to fade, add some more monomer onto your brush, and you'll fade it down. Any excess, you can always take off. It gets kind of messy doing ombres. Some people can do them with no issues, no access to any type of additional products needed or anything like that. Me, on the other hand, I get it everywhere, especially when I'm doing colored. So I'm trying to keep it in the frame because my editing software likes to crop out stuff. Okay, so there you have, and I now see how it's going down there and up there. You can fix that once you get the first layer down, and it's okay if you're doing ombres and you can't do them in 2 beads and then encapsulate. That's fine. Work at your own pace. You want the end product to be good regardless, and you'll just pick up on speed as you go, as you practice. So I'm going to lay the second bead of my white mix, and again, that's 3-to-1 ratio. Let it sit, drag it up. And when I'm dragging, I'm not pushing hard. That's why you want your brush and your beads to be wet, because if you know, that can ruin your brush. For one, you'll get product stuck all in it because it's wet, and you just make sure that you're using a pat motion where there's bulk. Oh, well, I think I'm out of the frame again. Okay. This whole filming thing has been a very tedious experience for me. So I want to bring the white up a little bit more on this side. And there you go. You have an ombre nail. Now, if you notice, when I turn, well, it's focusing on the background. When I turn it, you can kind of see a little dent. If you don't want to add more product, because you don't want the nail too bulky, that's fine. You can leave it as is, and when you encapsulate, it'll even it out. And also, if you notice, I don't have an apex really built, because I'm going to go in with my clear. And the reason we encapsulate, if you didn't encapsulate, when you go to file this, finish filing, even if you had an apex belt, it will completely e-file all of the fading off, the color off, so on and so forth. So encapsulate always, just like when you encapsulate with glitter. So I go in to encapsulate. 1, 2, 3. Pat the sides, the cuticle area, gently pat it in a downward motion. I'm holding it up. Normally I would be holding the client or the client's nail straight down. And you see how the product, you don't have to, you just pat and drag, pat and drag. Okay, so now that that is done, and if you see now, when I turn the nail, it now is even on both sides, because I encapsulated it with the clear, and the clear evened it out. So now I go in, and my last final step will be to magically create an apex. So I want it about right here, because this nail is a medium to long length. Pat it down on the cuticle and bring it down. And like I said, the more you practice, the faster you'll get. When I first started doing ombre, well, when I first started doing ombres, I couldn't do ombres at all, period, the end. And any little imperfection, that's why you do finish filing and whatnot. Now there's a space right there. Well, it's not focusing. Right here that I missed with the clear. So I pick up a small bead. 1, 2, 3. And bring it out. Now, if this were on a form instead of a tip, or sometimes because you have so much acrylic going on with it, let's see if I can kind of focus. Ignore this little guy right here. He'll come off when I file or buff, I'm sure. You can take your pinching tool and pinch this and create more of a C-curve. That's my C-curve now. This is one of the highest or largest size nail tips. It came in that pack, so it's a much more wide nail. If it was on a client, like a thumbnail, I would go ahead and pinch it. Now, when you pinch, let me go ahead and clear some of this out of the way. When you pinch, you want to make sure that your acrylic is not still wet on the sidewalls. You will mess up the entire nail. So you want to make sure, and I usually go nail to nail. So it's matting out. Well, Jesus. Okay. So it's matting out now, but you can still see how it's very, very, very wet still. And it's sticky. See how you can see it stick on the side? You don't want to pinch it while it's doing that. So I'll usually start with the pinky nail or the ring finger. If I have an accent nail I'm doing, I'll start with those. That way they can be done and I can start the design before the rest of the nails. So I'll do that nail first. Otherwise, I usually start with the pinky. So I'll do the pinky, I'll do the ring finger, and usually by the time I hit the middle finger, it'll be dry enough to where I can go ahead and pinch it. Let's see. It's a little bit sticky. Okay, down here it's fine. So what I'll do is I'll go in, I'm not sure how well this is going to work, I'll go in with my pinching tool. And depending on how narrow you want it, I want a little bit more narrow up here. And I'll just leave it sitting there for a while. And the reason I said you don't want to pinch it while it's wet is because all of that will flatten out if you pinch it while it's wet. That's it for a while. If I want a really deep C-curve, I'll place it all the way down there because that's going to be where it pinches the most. On smaller nails, you can just pinch it down here. You know, on natural nails, when you're doing a natural overlay or a gel overlay and you want the nail bed to be a little bit more slim, more of a C-curve on the natural nail, you can take it and pinch it down here if you want to. But for this nail, I'm just going to go ahead and pinch it. And you want to make sure that you're trying to get it even on each side because you don't want one side pinch more than the other. Sorry, this is hard to do with just a nail tip. So, and then I'll continue on, and then I'll go from pinky to ring finger and just kind of go down the line. You know, and if you need time, if you're pinching all 10 nails and you need time, you can, but you don't want to work, or you're not used to working that fast on ombres, but you know you need to switch your pincher, go ahead and a nail that you've already pinched, go ahead and just file the sides, small maintenance, and then come back to the pinching tool. That way you're not in the middle of doing a nail and having to switch the pincher out, and then the product you applied dries up and it's just a big old mess. So that's what I do. Okay, now we have more of a little C-curve there. We have a small apex. Now if this was on an actual client, I would probably do the apex just a little bit more just to add strength, but pinching also kind of squeezes everything in and closes it all in, and you'll get a nice strengthened apex with pinching as well. So yeah, that's about it. And then you'll just take your file and just kind of, sorry, it's hard to file and film at the same time. not much finish filing is needed. It's just a practice tip. When you're filing the sidewalls, a lot of people have a bad habit of, especially with coffin and stilettos and those natural nail tips that aren't straight, you'll get like an eagle claw, if you will. But if you take the sidewalls and file directly flat, so you're filing like this, when you file like that, make sure you always roll back the skin. Otherwise, you will cut your client and score your file on the edges beforehand. Now, for the coffin shape, a lot of people, they file like that and that's it. I like to file, okay, sorry about that. My child is going crazy. I'll file up and down in a motion like this and get it really, really straight and crisp. Sometimes I'll turn the, well, you can't really see but I'll turn the client's hand like this. Make sure I'm, okay, this is really difficult with this camera setup. I'll do it like that. It's still kind of uneven, and it's so hard for me to show you guys this because of the way my tripod is. Just flatten it out, and then, you know, at that point you can take your e-file, your buffer. There's not much finish filing that needs to be done here, but you can always, you know, just hand file it out, e-file it out. There's that. Where's my buffer? My buffer has left the building. Well, I'll just use this old one. So then that's good. Make sure you get all of the dust, especially if you're planning on using gel top coat. I'm not going to in this video. Clean off all the dust. You don't want that in your top coat. It will ruin it. Going to go back to my favorite non-LED top coat, non-gel top coat, which is very, very fast drying. Alrighty. This stuff dries in about a minute and a half. No, less than that probably. I would say 30 seconds to start setting, but make sure you cap, even if you're doing acrylic with it, and there you go. You have your baby boomer ombre. Alright guys, it's not focusing, but you know. So there you go. And I wish you all luck. Bye.